Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JessinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to match reaction for Arsenal 3, Orlando City 1. Yeah. Can I just say that, like, one of the most annoying things to me is announcers, commentators not knowing who the player is. To me, like, it was very distracting to me to know who the players were, but he was saying, like, it was Sambi, but it was actually Nketiah. It was Saka, but it was, he was saying it was Saka, but it was Thomas. Like, I'm not going to say like the obvious, but like, not all certain types of players look the same. And it just annoyed me that he like literally never got it right. So yeah, that was like a huge annoyance. I don't know if you guys heard, but he literally called Nelson the Brazilian. I'm sorry. When did Nelson become Nelson the Brazilian? Like, it was so crazy. He even said, like, oh, Saka was quiet in the first half or some nonsense like that. Well, of course he was quiet in the first half. He didn't play in the first half. That guy knew nothing and it was totally distracting. But beyond that, I do think we got exactly, what we probably expected once the lineup came out. The first lineup was Cedric or Ramsdale, Cedric Holding, Marie, Nuno, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Sambi, Mo Elneny, Nketiah, Martinelli, and Pepe. And so, from that moment, I think a lot of people just decided not even to watch, like, because they didn't want to have to wait for the good team to come in. Um, but nevertheless, like, we know that some of these players are going to go. I do think it's a little bit strange that, like, people that I get that they don't want to be at Arsenal, but it's a good opportunity to at least look like you're a competent football player. And I do feel like some of the performances out there were very below par, even for the players. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we have very low expectations for some of these players, and they definitely were below those low expectations, which is crazy. Um, but the commentator, not the one that was calling Nelson the Brazilian, but the other one, he did make a good point where he said that essentially this game highlights Arsenal's biggest problem, that once you get beyond our first team, and our first team, when you add Gabriel Jesus to that, is pretty damn good. When you get beyond that, um, you know, it starts to become a little bit like, what is this place? Like, who is this? Is this Arsenal? And I looked at it and I thought to myself, I understand that Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Pablo Marie, Pepe, like, these guys won't be here. Bellerin, but Cedric is the next man up if Tomiyasu is injured. And newsflash, Tomiyasu is injured all the time. Sambi, he's supposed to be somebody that we can rely upon in midfield. Mo Elneny is okay, but you wouldn't want him to play a certain amount of games, so ultimately, like, I still look at some of our bench options and think to myself, like, this isn't good enough. It really isn't. But when the first team came in, it was like, oh, this is Arsenal. Honestly, like, against an MLS team, it should look easy. Like, it should look like you're not struggling. I get that they're not at 100% fitness. Like, if you watch Ben White, you could see that this is his first game back. He's not fit. Odegaard, he's gaining his fitness back. But when you looked at Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Pepe in particular, what I found to be like a little bit like, wow, is just their general, like, they look like they couldn't give a shit. Like, and I'm just like, damn, at least give a shit for yourself. Like, but other than that, like, the second half was completely different, especially when Arteta brought on Saliba, Saka, Thomas, and Xhaka. I was like, we're saved. Like, this is who we want to watch play. And so, what I want to do, there's about 160 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. What I want to do is just kind of go through each player, and I won't go into huge depth with everybody, but just kind of give them a rating. And do that, and we'll try to get out of here, not stay too long, but I wanted to make sure I did something just in case you guys, were still up. and wanting to talk about it. So yeah, let's start off with Ramsdale. So for me, Ramsdale kind of looked like the Ramsdale that ended last season, and we don't like that Ramsdale. That Ramsdale uh, is a little bit shaky, not doesn't really look confident in what he's doing. I know some people felt like the goal that went in, he should have got it. Easy shots that shouldn't be going in, go in, when he doesn't look 100%. Now, this is his first game back, I think, as well. So we have to give him a chance to like get back up to it. But when I watched some of his distribution as well, like I didn't necessarily feel like he was firing on all cylinders just yet. But, with Ramsdale, it's just one of those kind of things where it's like, okay, hopefully you get up to speed. So I gave him a 5. There's room to improve there. Cedric was kind of Cedric. He's not, and I have no real expectations of Cedric. Obviously, when he's playing with the not so great players, he looks worse. And when he plays with the better players, he looks competent. So I'm going to give Cedric a 6. I don't think they were really attacking his side as much as they were attacking the Nuno side. I think once they realized that he was the weak link, that side with Marie, they really started going on that side. Don't get me wrong, like Holding was tragic, but they were definitely targeting the Marie and Nuno Tavares side. So Cedric gets a 6. Holding was shocking. Like, I can't even lie. And the funniest thing about this was that I was like dying, was because he had literally just did an interview and was like talking shit, like saying like, oh yeah, like, there's many defenders that have come through Arsenal, come and gone, and I'm still here. So what, that must mean something. And I'm just like, every single time somebody does an interview like that, they come out and show their natural born ass. And that's exactly what Rob Holding did. First minute of the game, gets turned, yellow card, bam, just like that. I'm like, this guy, he also got like devastatingly bullied by one of their forwards, and he just turned on him. And if Holding had held on any longer, he probably would have gotten a red, which is exactly what he was doing against Spurs. The guy just panics, and that's why he can't play at the highest level. I can understand why Arsenal are looking for another center back. Holding is no longer, competent backup, for a team that's trying to fight for the top 4. He's just not. Maybe with the better players, he's okay, but his role has really kind of dwindled down to a last 10 minutes third center back in a back 3. He cannot be trusted in a back 4. He just is such a easy target because he panics when he gets beat. So for me, Rob Holding gets a 4. My expectations are not very high, but at the same time, like for somebody who just sat up there in front of the media talking about, well, I'm here for a reason, that was pretty shocking, Robert. It was pretty freaking shocking. So moving on, Marie was Marie, same old, he panics as well. I think one of the kind of like common denominators or, indicators of a good center back is calm under pressure. And I find Holding and Marie, they have the Mustafi gene. They panic when they're under pressure. And so if you're feel under pressure with the Orlando City forwards, you're in trouble. So Marie was doing his usual shenanigans. Him and Tavares were getting absolutely burned on that right-hand side. So for me, Marie gets a 4, not quite as bad as Holding, but I mean, he's right there with him. 2 players that probably just need to go ahead and be moved on. Nuno Tavares, he's an interesting one because I do think that he looked better in the second half when the better team came on. But the shots, like these 2 shots that he took, that when he started to like kick his leg back, and somebody's about to take a big shot, leg pulling back, you just know it's going to go like straight into the stands. And I think for Arsenal, since he's played for Arsenal, he's only had like 2 shots on goal, and he's taken a lot of shots. He needs to work on that. He just needs a loan. I do think, again, physical tools are there, could be very dangerous in a back 3/back 5. He needs more of a foundation behind him because he's not really a good fullback. He doesn't have the defensive awareness. He's another one that got easily spun by one of the Orlando players and was culpable for the goal. So for me, He just has to, go out on that loan and learn his trade. Like that's pretty much what it is. Tavares is 21 years old. He has his entire career ahead of him. So for me, even though I don't think, you know, I don't think he played well, unlike Marie and Holding, who are both like 27, 28, 29 years old. They don't have anywhere to go. Tavares has a whole career ahead of him. So he's definitely not good enough for Arsenal this season. I'm definitely happy that we've gotten Zinchenko in. But Nuno was like typical Nuno today. It is what it is. So I gave him a 4 as well. There's 200 of you guys in here, so like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's have a conversation about Mr. Ainsley Maitland-Niles. So I thought out of everybody in that first half team, he was by far the most shocking. Actually, there's 300 of you guys in here, which is crazy. But Ainsley Maitland-Niles, like, I know that he has that nonchalant personality, but you can't tell me that he gave a flip about being out there. Like, it was just like, wow, he really doesn't care about being out here. And he's somebody that needs to get a move. He's not going to play for Arsenal Football Club next season. Like, I could even see him not getting registered. I think it's that deep. So he needs to go ahead and get a move. Boo boo, you're not a midfielder. Like, concede. Like, it's fine. Like, he's just not a midfielder. And it's not just because Ainsley doesn't have the technical quality. It's because he doesn't have the awareness and the alertness and the intensity that you need to play in midfield. Midfielders have to be turned on. Like, they have to be switched on constantly. When you look at like Xhaka and Thomas and Odegaard, constantly scanning, constantly looking, they receive the ball in a certain position so it doesn't get taken away from them. They take small touches. They can operate in small areas. And when you look at Ainsley, he's not really good enough on the dribble to make up for the fact that he can't operate in small spaces. So, he's just not a midfielder. And the best thing he could have done for his life is just kind of like accept that he was probably a right back or right wing back. At this point, I don't really care. It is what it is. But he has to care about his own career and figure out where he's going to go. So yeah, like Ainsley was the worst player out there. I thought his whole demeanor was very like, I don't really feel like being out here. When he ripped the Orlando player down in midfield and was grabbing his shirt, I was like, that's shocking. Like, it's just so bad. And, it's just, yeah. But at the same time, like, you're 25 years old and, I think his wages are too high. So a lot of the teams that are probably interested in him are not interested in taking on that level of wages for a player like him. But you don't have people necessarily lining up to come get you, so Ainsley was the worst player out there in the first half, and you can't tell me otherwise. Like, it just was so bad. And so for me, I gave him a 3. I thought that was generous. So let's see. TJ Emerson, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Said, will you be breaking down reacting to Arsenal All or Nothing? Also, I'm really worried about the new season. I will be doing like a reaction to Arsenal All or Nothing. So, stay tuned for that. I will do that for you guys. And in terms of being worried about the next season, I'm not really worried about the first team. Like, I'm not really worried about the players that we saw in the second half for the last 30 minutes. What I'm worried about is once you start, past that first wall, you start knocking past that and you break through what's behind there. And it's a very kind of weak foundation of players that just aren't good enough. And if you have 2 or 3 or 4 of them out there at once, we start to look a lot different as a team. So that's what I'm more worried about than anything. But the transfer window's not closed just yet. So we'll wait until then. Let's see. So yeah, let me just finish off like these last couple of players here as well. Like, so Sambi, with Sambi, he did look better when he played with the better players. I do think that he has more quality than like Ainsley Maitland-Niles. But what I I struggle with Sambi because I feel like he lacks intensity, alertness, and the swivel, like the, looking around, checking his surroundings, similarly to Ainsley Maitland-Niles. And so with Sambi, I don't feel like it's not a technical thing with him. It's a awareness, alertness, intensity thing. And so when he's jogging around in midfield, I just want to like go like that in the back of his head. So he turn around and look at me and I say, run, because it's like, I need you to run, honey. Like I need you to start running. Like you're actually jogging and it's jarring, So Sambi played a lot better in the second half. Again, I do think that there's quality there, but I actually think that he actually would be a candidate for a loan for me as well, because if you could get him a good loan similarly to like Nuno to like maybe like Burnley or somebody like that, or even like a Premier League team, he might do better there because he needs more playing time. He needs more reps. And once the season starts, I have to be honest, I don't really want to see Sambi playing because I just think that he's going to get toasted in bigger games. Not because he doesn't have technical quality. He's a nice player on the ball, but that guy, he's just not switched on enough for me to play in midfield at the highest level right now. And so he's an easy target for being a pressing trigger. Tavares is a pressing trigger. Cedric is also a pressing trigger. Sambi is going to be a pressing trigger. So I worry about him, but he was better in the second half. So I'll give him a 6. I worry about him being like the next guy up, but ultimately, like, there's nothing we really can do about it. Francis, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Saying, doing a great job, very knowledgeable. I really appreciate that so much. I'm just up here doing my thing, you know what I'm saying? So Diallo says Ainsley Maitland-Niles is not lackadaisical. He's just a terrible footballer, period. Reggie says Sambi needs a Marine drill sergeant running behind him with a baton. I mean, for real, like he needs somebody behind him saying like, run, go, go, because he just doesn't seem up, up. He's not up. Ericus says need to replace 80% of the B team. Christopher says Tavares needs a loan, but liked his effort. Shaquille says Sambi looked like Pogba when he was young. Let's see. Denver says Reiss looked like maybe we should keep him as an option. Okay, we'll talk about him in a little bit. Ed says Sambi is fine. He will get reps in the Cup and Europa League games. Fair enough. Fair enough. Foot says Sambi quality, easy Jess. I do think Sambi has quality. I just wonder about I just need you to move. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's just a little lackadaisical for me. Yep. Hashtag Nelson the Brazilian. Like, that was the funniest thing of the night. Like, it definitely was. Like, I just couldn't believe he kept saying it too. I was like, maybe he's like, because, a lot of Brazilians have last names with son on the back, so maybe he thought like Nelson was, if that's what he thought, like, fire him. Because I think in the stream, like the other guy was like, yeah, he's Hale End and went to Feyenoord, and he turned right around and was like, sorry, Nelson the Brazilian. What the hell? So it's so weird. Idris says Sambi will get better with age in that position. And Keenan says Tavares and Sambi need a loan. I agree. There's 500 of you guys in here. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Mo Elneny, I think, was just as average as he could be. Obviously, he struggled with the B team, whatever it was, in the first half and looked slightly better in the second before they took him out. I do think that this is the issue with Mo Elneny, is that he plays some games and he looks pretty decent, but ultimately he's just very, very average. And so with Sambi and with Elneny, we talked about this morning, I think it's really important for Arsenal to bring in another center midfielder that can play at the base of midfield, just in case something happens to Thomas or something happens to Granit Xhaka. I think Elneny and Sambi are a bigger issue than Xhaka. Xhaka made it look easy. Elneny looked like at a certain points he was right in there with the Orlando players. You know what I'm saying? So I do think we have an issue there in midfield, but Mo gets a 5 for me. Let's talk about Martinelli. I think beyond the goal, to be honest, Martinelli really struggled. His pressing was really good right at the beginning. He had a lot of energy and you could tell he was trying to get on the ball. But I also think he suffered a little bit from playing with the B team. you know, but his touches were not great. He didn't have good control over the ball. He couldn't beat his man, which I do find to be a little bit like, you should be able to beat these Orlando defenders. You saw Saka come straight in and strip that guy so badly. And Nketiah was beating people. Jesus was beating people. I did find it strange that I didn't think Martinelli could get past his marker. That guy that he was playing against is not good, so I worried about that. So beyond that, I do think that you know, he was good for the goal. He tried really hard. He suffered from playing with the lesser players or the not as good players. We know Martinelli's a good player, but he wasn't great today. So I give him a 7, and that's mostly for the goal, to be honest. Pepe was shocking as usual. Like, he could not beat his man to save his life. The ball was just kind of like bobbling off of his toe. He looks, for somebody who's played in every single preseason match from the very beginning, he looks a lot more rusty than the other players. And that's strange to me. But at the same time, I don't have very high expectations for Nicola Pepe at this point. I do think that similarly to Ainsley Maitland-Niles, he seems checked out. That's a projection. It may not be the truth. Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Pepe both have that lackadaisical kind of nonchalant feel about them. So it could just be that. But ultimately, I just don't really see a player that is going to be at Arsenal next season. I don't think he adds very much competition to Bukayo Saka. Again, Bukayo made it look easy. He was toasting that guy. And don't try to even tell me. I know somebody's going to be like, well, Pepe, he wore him out. No, Pepe did not wear him out. And then Saka came out there and continued to roast. Pepe could not get past him. That's not really a good thing for Pepe. Like, he should be getting past his man. Like, that's what everybody likes him for, is that he can dribble and get past people, right? So if he can't do that against the Orlando people, which usually he is kind of good against like lower level opposition, I just thought he was pretty bad, so call me what you want, but I'm just gonna give Pepe a 5. Let's talk about Nketiah. I'm actually grouping him with the better players. I think out of everybody that played with that first team, he looked like he should have been with the first, like the better players, the starters. And so for me, Nketiah has been very, 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 very impressive. And again, you guys know me. Like, if I have an original opinion about something, it can always be changed. And my opinions about Nketiah are starting to shift a little bit. Maybe I was a little bit too harsh. Maybe I did think that he was kind of like that original, like, young kid, 20 years old, coming into the team. He's a lot different now. And what I will say is that he took his goal really well. He was very energetic, especially when Jesus came on. You could just tell, like, they have a good partnership. And, I tweeted out there, I sent a tweeted out there. That makes no sense. But I tweeted, is Nketiah a starter? He looked good on the left-hand side. He actually looked more dangerous than Gabriel Martinelli. He also looked better than Martinelli in the first half. And we do need another attacker. Don't get it twisted. I'm not changed my mind about that. We need another attacker. But in this current side, I can see Nketiah actually being a better option because he's a natural, like, kind of goal scorer. And him and Jesus seem to have like a good partnership. He can also do a lot of like the little passing and that kind of stuff. But what I like about Nketiah that I don't necessarily feel like Martinelli has all the time, and I don't know why he doesn't do this anymore, but Nketiah is desperate to shoot the ball and desperate to score a goal. And so you get that like devastating pressure, that pressing, the quick movements. And Nketiah's skills look really good. He likes to get in the box. And I think ultimately, like, Saka and Nketiah and Jesus has actually looked more threatening than Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka. But Martinelli did not play with the good team. So this might just be, an opinion that I won't hold too tight, because I love Martinelli. But I do think Nketiah's stock in this team is growing. He's he's evolved past just being like a 5-yard poacher. He's doing so much more. And so, my whole thing about Nketiah a couple weeks ago was that I want him to be for Arsenal what Diego Jota is to Liverpool, which is just a dangerous forward that can play all across the front three. But ultimately, what they give you is the pressing, the harassing, and goals at the end of the day. Diego Jota is not particularly technical. He's not somebody that like really, he's not going to be like a Firmino, but what he does give you is the pressure. He pressurizes defenses, and when he gets the ball, his first thought is to take a shot. And so that's what I want from Eddie Nketiah. And I think early signs in preseason show that he can have somewhat of that same effect. So I do think that, like ESR last season, where he was definitely a starter, but was kind of like the 12th man, he was kind of swapping positions with Martinelli. I do think Nketiah is kind of in that same category of, on certain days, he could actually be a starter. And with the way that Arteta loves him so much, don't be surprised if on day one of the season, if we don't have a new attacker in, if Nketiah starts on the left, Jesus through the middle, and Saka on the right. Because right now that looks the most dangerous. Nketiah gets a 9 for me. Wait, did I give him a 9? No, I gave him an 8.5. Nketiah gets an 8.5 for me. Diallo says, we need goals. Eddie is a more reliable goal scorer and will give us more threat than Pepe and Martinelli, is why we need a starting winger. Learn More says, even Eddie wasn't at his best in the first half. He wasn't, but I do think he was kind of like, he had a nice little turn. He tried to get some shots off. Anybody that was good really struggled in the first half with that team, so, but I do think he was a lot brighter than some of the other players. Nolan says, I still prefer Martinelli over Eddie on the left. Magnus says, Odegaard should have tried to shoot for himself a bit more. We'll talk about him in a second. Elliot Roberts says, Nketiah is improving with every game, and 8. I do think he looks like a very confident player. Like, he knows that he has a place in the team. And so for me, again, I want the team that's going to get the most goals out there. So I have a huge love for Martinelli, but if Nketiah is the better option off of the left and we're going to get more goals, that's what I want to see. Martinelli and Nketiah both press really well. They're both not super technical, but they can do some stuff on the ball. So ultimately, it could just come down to who does Arteta think is going to score more goals in the end of the day. And Martinelli did score a goal today. Learn More says, Martinelli was playing with bad players in the first half, playing with the starting lineup, and he will do very differently. Fair enough. George O'Brien says, Eddie and Gabriel working well with each other. I do think that they look good together. Keenan says, Martinelli really needs to pick his head up when he dribbles. That's what's limiting him. Yeah, sometimes he does have his head down. Ify says, people are sleeping on Eddie. He's improved a lot. The slander gets over the top, but yes, we still need another striker. Kobe says, I've been feeling the front three will be Eddie, Jesus, and Saka. Don't be surprised, y'all. Don't be surprised. I know some people be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. But for me, it's like old agendas have to go out the window if you get new information. And if Eddie can prove that he's not just a poacher and he can put the ball in the back of the net, and ultimately if him and Gabriel Jesus running in on those guys just looks so dangerous. And I just was like, that's what I want. Like, that's what I want to see. I don't necessarily want to change from a 4 at the back per se, but just have Nketiah play off of the left. For a whole year, we played with Aubameyang as the left wing, but he basically played like a striker anyway, so yeah, I don't know why we don't have to change our back 4 we don't have to change from back 4 to incorporate a second striker. We just have to play a little bit different, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Let's see. Yeah, so we're not going to go to a back 3, I don't think. Keenan says, wow, Martinelli getting a lot of shade. He's gone up a level this season. He just looked bad because he had no link-up play. No, like for me, with Martinelli, I do take into consideration that he didn't play with the best starting 11. But I have kind of felt like in every single game when you did see Nketiah and Jesus play together, that there was something there that's different than what you see with Martinelli and Saka and Jesus. Something that's looked to me to be a little bit more dangerous. But that doesn't mean I don't want to see Martinelli. I love Martinelli. He could have a great season next season. There's 600 122 of you guys in here, which is insane. Stay tuned in, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Now let's kind of move to some of the other players. I'll say Matt Turner, I think, looked better today. He didn't have as much to do because he played with the better players than Ramsdale. So I'm just going to give him a clean 6. For me, with the backup goalkeeper situation, I'm not really too worried about it. I know that Matt Turner is not a runner-sin. He had a bad first go of it, but today he was just fine and he played decently with his feet, and he just didn't have a lot to do. So I'm just going to give him a straight 6. When we'll start off with like the players that kind of came in at halftime, which was Gabriel and Odegaard and Jesus. So Gabriel, I thought he did get turned one time pretty brutally, not gonna lie. Gabriel, he's very good like in the duels, and he's very good like kind of in the center, but when he gets dragged out to the touchline, there are times where he doesn't look as comfortable, and so he got killed. But other than that, he looked like the normal Gabriel. He turned the lights out on some of those attackers. He was decent on the ball, unlike Holding and Marie, where it looked like this is like the like hardest game I've ever played. Gabriel looked like it was super easy. So Gabriel for me gets a 7. Nothing to worry about, in terms of Gabriel. He just got turned one time. And ultimately he shouldn't have been that far out. But when you're playing with Tavares, you have to go all the way to the touch line. When we have a left back there that knows what they're doing, he won't get pulled out to the touch line as much. But no, Gabriel did get turned one really bad time on his left-hand side. I remember it because I said, oh shit, so yeah, he did. And like I said, Turner is fine. I'm agreeing with you guys. She Knows Football, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Andy Smith says, nice update and great content. Very good game analysis. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So yeah, Gabriel gets a 7 for me. That's solid. He just got turned one time, but other than that, he was great. In terms of, Odegaard, he looked like typical Odegaard to me, very neat and tidy on the ball, some really great passes, some good little link play with the wings, the wingers. The issue with Odegaard that always kind of presents itself is that I do think that he wants to always be that pass, so he doesn't shoot enough. And so that's something that Odegaard really needs to work on. I thought last season he did pretty well, but he could easily get 3 or 4 more goals this season if he just hits it. Just hit the ball. Just stop trying to pass. There's just sometimes where it's like he's right there at the center of the goal, and I get that sometimes it's not the best, it's not the best angle, but ultimately a lot of times, and this happens to us all the time, you shoot it, sometimes it deflects into the back of the net. You never really know, or it ricochets and it goes out to one of your teammates. So I do just think that Odegaard, he showed his quality again. He's a very good technician. He had where we had no creativity whatsoever, he was our beacon of creativity in that second half. But he needs to shoot more, and that's really going to be his task because he had 7 goals and 6 assists last season. Let me just look it up really quick. Odegaard last season had 7 goals and 4 assists. So I do think that the assist was more due to the fact that certain people weren't putting the ball in the back of the net, but he could easily have 10, 12, 13 goals if he would just shoot in those good positions that he gets into. What I also like about what I'm seeing with Odegaard, Thomas Partey, and Granit Xhaka in this preseason is that there's a lot more switching of positions. As we've gotten further and further along with Mikel Arteta, we become less rigid and more flexible. So Odegaard was popping up on the left side, was popping up on the right side, right half space was a little bit deeper. Granit Xhaka was popping up everywhere as well. So when you think about it, if you can get Odegaard kind of doing that, bring in somebody like a Vieira, he can do those things as well. Maybe even bring in a Tielemans, then we have a more fluid midfield and we're more difficult to deal with. So yeah, I really do like what I'm seeing from Odegaard. Are you guys telling me that Chelsea lost? Really? Okay, I'm not going to laugh too hard. Did they really? I gotta see. Because you guys, I was panicking because I thought we were gonna lose this game. Because if we did it, like, we would get toasted. Oh, they lost on penalties. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, so we weren't that bad. So yeah, and Everton were shocking. But yeah, Odegaard showed his quality as usual. Love Odegaard. Definitely think he's the right captain. So I gave him an 8. And Jesus. So Jesus came in at halftime, and the thing about Jesus is that when you watch him, it's not just what he does on the ball, it's what he does off the ball. His anticipation, intensity, and alertness is really what makes him special, because there's just so many times where I just feel like our players are just waiting for something to happen. Like I think it was Sambi took a shot. It might have been Sambi's shot. I'm not sure. But somebody took a shot, and the goalkeeper saved it, and Jesus was right on it. On another day that goes in the back of the net. You know what I mean? He was such a nuisance. He ran back with an Orlando City player, tracked him all the way back and won the ball back. I like what he does when he presses, because right before the player is about to kick the ball, he sticks his leg out to try to block it, even from behind the player. So it's, for me, like, Jesus just kind of like, you can just see it's not just about what he does on the ball. It's all the stuff that he does off of it, his runs. He's just very busy. And I do feel like some of our players watch games go by them. Alexis had a lot of what Gabriel Jesus has. It's just, I want to be involved, and I'm going to be involved whether you pass me the ball or not. And so, we need one more player like that in our front line, I do think, to make things kind of like flow a little bit better. But you could see that, like, even it was like infectious. Odegaard looked a lot better. I mean, Odegaard looked good. He didn't look a lot better, but like Odegaard and Jesus, like, their connection looked really good. With Saka, it was really good, and with Nketiah, it was very good as well. So Jesus was amazing. You know, he has a point to prove and a bit between his teeth, which is a really good thing for a striker. And I like that. He didn't get a goal, but a lot of the things that we did that were good were about him, or were started by him. So I gave him an 8 or 8.5. I just thought he was great. If he had got a goal, he would have just been just up there, because he was just amazing for me. Elliot Robert says Jesus is a man sent by God. George O'Brien says Jesus will score 15 to 20 Premiership goals this season. Let's see. He's a hound. Hakum says Jesus got that dog in him. I don't know why that's so funny when people say it. I love it. It's not something I would say on a normal basis. Mikel, the cone man, says Jesus tracked some guy all the way to the halfway line and won the ball back. And like Martinelli does some of that stuff too, but I do feel like, where Martinelli was a lot more like kind of free before, I do feel like he's a little bit more contained than he used to be. But when Martinelli's playing well, he does do a lot of those things as well. And I'm not trying to be reductive, but it's just the South American work rate in those players. That's just the way that they are, and Jesus he just happens to also be a very good player too. So you add all that together and you have a really, really good player. Keenan says Jesus is going to win the Golden Boot, no cap. The City board are going to wonder what the F they were thinking selling him and Zinchenko to us after we kill it this season. I hope so. Hakum says there were moments where I thought Jesus could have shot earlier, but he was great. Yeah, he did have some moments where he kind of second guessed it and didn't shoot. But ultimately, like, sometimes you have those days, and I think like he's scored enough goals in these first couple games for me to know, like, okay, he has it. Today was just like, if this is an off day for Gabriel Jesus, like, that's really good. Remember, we survived Lacazette, So Clement says Jesus will score 15 plus goals this season. He has that dog in him, his work rate, and he's a very good player, and that can play all three positions along the front line. Exactly. And so the other thing with Jesus is that, like, he's not, I think we need to get away from wanting a striker to carry us as well. If Jesus can do that, do that in a game, but other players score, it's perfectly fine, because he scored in the last 3 games as well. It's just about not relying upon one player. We can't get to the point where all of our players are kind of looking at Jesus like, what you gonna do? You know? Oh, I ruined it? Oh, sorry. I said it. I said, he's got that dog in him. I did say in him, I thought. Oh, well, whatever. Um, I'll practice. Nolan says Jesus was very much involved even without scoring tonight. Exactly. There's 644 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. So that was the Jesus spiel. He was great, 8.5. And then the other 5 players came in. Let's talk about Ben White. He's not fit, you guys. So I'm going to give him like some grace because he was getting smoked, but he's also, that's the first time that he's played. And remember, he didn't play at the back end of last season either. So I'm gonna give him some grace. I thought on the ball he was okay. Off the ball he was getting toasted. So yeah, but he was playing right back, and I do think at the beginning of the season that might be where he'll end up playing because he because somebody else was really good and Tomiyasu is injured. So it's kind of like, who would you rather see, Ben White or would you rather see Cedric? So I do think Ben White, could play right back for us in this system once he gets sharp. Like I remember him, like we played him there against Chelsea at the end of last season before he kind of got injured. I think he was already kind of injured as well, and he did pretty good. So yeah, I think Ben White was rusty, so I'm going to give him a 4. But yeah, like I don't know what to say. And the thing about like, okay, Ben White was played out of position, like not really, you guys. Like he played right back, or right center back for Brighton. He plays that for England as well. So I think it was more Ben White was rusty than Ben White is out of position and he didn't know where he was supposed to be at. He's just rusty, and that's just what it looked like to me. Ben White's also really smart. He doesn't want to get injured, so I saw him kind of like pulling out of tackles, and Ben White's a smart player, like he's clever, so I think he was fine for me. So he was rusty, give him like 4 or 5, but yeah, is what it is. Thomas and Xhaka, I'm going to give them a grade together because I thought as a pairing they were really, really good. Thomas, like that's the thing about this. That's the thing about Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka is when they're in there together and they're on it, they're one of the best center mid pairings like in the league. And I stand by that. It's just when you pull them apart or one of them is not at 100%, then you start to see it. Or like if you want to go to the next level and start to really push for third, second, and first, you are going to have to get somebody else. But in terms of like fifth, sixth, fourth, fifth, sixth, like they're right in there. And they play really well together. So I'm going to give them an 8. I don't want to see either of them over a free kick opportunity. We need a free kick specialist, like we need air. Because if we're going to have to suffer with Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka taking free kicks for us, we're never going to score from those. But I think ultimately they both did really good for me. And so I'm going to give them both 8s together. She Knows Football. Thank you so much for your super chat. Says, I'm a class A master golf professional who is ranked top 10 in the world in 2017. I'm also a PGA award winner in 2008. I'm not her mother. I should have played pro baseball or basketball though. She Knows Football is not related to me. I don't know She Knows Football, just a really nice supporter of the channel and made that name just to comment on here. So yeah, we're not related, but this is my good buddy, She Knows Football. So yeah, Xhaka can bang a free kick every once in a while, but ultimately we need a specialist. Like those are pretty much wasted, in my opinion. But yeah, I do think they both get an 8 from me. And Saka, I thought did what Pepe couldn't, which was beat his man. What I do like about Saka, which I think was probably a note from last season, is don't try to cut it back on your left as much. You want to be unpredictable. So go to the end line sometimes cut it back. And I think he's switching it up a lot more. He has his burst. In the first game, you could tell he wasn't fit. Now he's kind of getting into the groove, him and Odegaard, so yeah, I really do think that like Saka is going to go up another level. I think he's somebody else that needs to shoot a little bit more. Our right-hand side is really a facilitation and creativity, but they should probably take some more shots. But Saka was really good. I'm going to give him an 8. And last but not least, we have to talk about it. Willow, Bill, Mr. Saliba. Like, what? Like, he was good. And like, again, my thing with these preseason games is we never really know until they play against blah, blah, blah. But my thing is when you play against lower level opposition, it should look easy. And Saliba looked easy breezy. He looked the best. He was our best center back today. He was better than Gabriel as well. His passing was crisp. He was running those guys down. He was just, he never got beat. Tackles were good. You could tell like when players were running up to him, like they were like, oh shit, I don't want to go there. I'm like, damn, is he going to have the aura? If he does, it's a wrap, so for me, I love, Saliba, and I think he did a really, really good job. And yeah, I don't know. It feels like, some people are saying they don't really agree with me on Saliba, which is strange because one day, we love him and the next minute we don't, but I thought Saliba was really good. Not really overhyping him. It's just against lower level opposition, it should look easy, and it looked easy for him. And so for me, I'm going to give Saliba an 8.5. Best guy out there. And I think if we could start the season with Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, and Ben White, it's happy girl. I'm a happy girl. So yeah, but Ben White is definitely under threat. I can tell you that right now. Like, he's definitely under threat. This is not a game. SOS, you alert. You are under threat. Your position is not looking secure. And that's good. That's a good thing. We don't really want their positions to look secure. And in terms of like, are we going to play a back three or are we not? We don't have to play a back three to get Ben White in his position. He can play just like Tomiyasu, really. So I do think that like the more I see Saliba, the more I'm like, okay, we need to get him tied down to a new deal. It's not a game. He's going to be he's better than Fofana. Like, I know it. Fofana's the more erratic guy. Saliba is so calm, cool, and collected. He just turns the lights out on an attacker and just shuffles them over to whatever side that he wants them and just pokes the ball away and just runs away. And I'm just like, ooh, this is just great. I'm not going to say he looks like so-and-so because I don't think he's close to that guy yet. But yeah, I really do like Saliba. So again, I'm going to give him an 8.5. I thought he was great. And so if we could start off with that back four, those two midfielders and Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey, at the very least, Odegaard, Saka, Jesus, and somebody else, whoever it may be, I do think will beat Crystal Palace. But again, with that, I do feel like I still see the same holes in the squad that we've been talking about for weeks. So although I do like our first 11, and I do think our first 11 / first 12 to 13 is pretty good, I still want to see another attacker come in. I really want to see us push our competitors a little bit more with an attacker that really puts other teams under threat and ultimately puts the other players in those positions under threat as well. And one more central midfielder, just to really just seal off the transfer window. If we could get those two things done, I'd be very happy. It was also nice to see Zinchenko in the stands, saying hi to fans. He could probably look right down there and say, I am not competing with anybody because Kieran Tierney is nowhere to be found. And that guy Tavares is not up to standard. So I would imagine that we would see Zinchenko maybe against Chelsea. In regards to Vieira, he's just now getting back into training. So I'm not really sure if we're going to see him or not, but just at least seeing him like, kicking a ball is good. But I also think he's going to really surprise some people. But yeah, let's go ahead and end it there because we've already been going for like 50 minutes or so. What does it say? Is somebody doing something that they're not supposed to be doing? You guys just make sure you guys are like nice, to people in the comments. Let's not be rude or, whatever. We're here to talk football and nothing else. Let's see. Where actually is Tomiyasu? I don't know. Geoff says, I love Arthur Mello. He's Carzola Mark II. Geoff, I don't know about that, but okay. Denver says Tomiyasu is in rehabilitation recovery from a small injury. Kevin says, for real, Tomiyasu is starting when fit. Absolutely no chance Ben does. If Tomiyasu is fit. And that's the thing. It's like Tierney and Tomiyasu have been injured for such a long time. So we have to look at other players and say, who's going to play? And we don't want Cedric and Tavares. So if you look at Zinchenko and Ben, I'm looking at two better options. That's already two better options than what we had last season in fullback positions, really. It's still not ideal. You probably still want to bring in somebody else, but Tierney and Tommy are not fit, so it's probably going to be Zinchenko and Ben, because if you haven't played any games, you're not starting against Zaha on the first day of the season. It's not happening. So yeah. But yeah, they said that Tomiyasu and Tierney were in training, or ESR and Tierney were in training. I didn't see Tomiyasu, but people will probably come back. But if you think about what we have, like if that's our first 11, and then you look at the players that are coming back, you have Tierney, Tommy, ESR, so those are really good options. We still need more though. She Knows Football, thank you so much for your super chat saying this channel is going to be number one. We'll make sure of it. I really appreciate that. But yeah, let's go ahead and get out of here. It's been about 50 minutes or so. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. There's 600 of you guys in here. So please support the channel. It's absolutely free. It just helps me get seen a lot more, helps the channel grow. There's only 280 of you guys that have liked the video. So before you guys get on your way out, just, go ahead and smash the likes. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.